Hey friends, welcome or welcome back to this channel. My name is Stacy here with Stacy Makes, and thank you for being here. If you are new, thank you for stopping. We do all kinds of crochet. Is that how you say crochet and cozy together? Apparently so. We do cozy crochet stuff here, markets, pattern reviews, pattern tests, yarn, we talk eyes, we talk all of those things. So I am glad that you have stopped by, and if you are not new, thank you for coming back again. So you guys were expecting, if you were watching last week or the week before, you were expecting a market recap. That market did not happen. I had some stuff going on with my family last week. I have a little trip coming up, and then Tara did not have the day off. My daughter, who's Old Soul Factory here on YouTube, did not have the day off. I was going to have to do it by myself. And then they changed it from 10 to 4 to 8 to 4. And I was like, nope, I just don't want to spend one whole day of my weekend doing this market for $300 or $400 and have the whole day away from my family right before I leave. And so anyway, I decided to pull out of that market. It was just a $25 booth fee that I lost, but it was worth the extra day in my weekend. So instead of a market recap, this week you are going to get a pattern test, a brand new pattern that I made. I made a couple market cheap items that I will show you, and a brand new set of fancy pants that we're going to talk about. I also have some eyes from Nerdy Girl Crochets that we traded that are mystery eyes that I have not opened yet, so I'm going to open those with you guys today. And I'll talk about my trip that's coming up. So, and then also I do have some tips for fancy pants. I'm going to introduce you to the new fancy pants, talk about a mod I have coming out, and I'm going to give you guys some tips if you are making those patterns. So thank you. Again, let's just get right in and talk about my pattern test first. I actually had this done last week, but I didn't show it to you because it wasn't released yet. And I think it's so much better to show it when you guys can actually go and buy it if you do want to go get it, so that you just don't forget. But this pattern is by Mom Stitchetti. If you follow me on Instagram, you've already seen it because I did post on release day. Actually, the day after release day, I posted yesterday. Her release day was actually on Friday. But she has a new pack of Halloween cats. She has it's cute little sitting no-sew kitties. And she's got a Halloween pack that has 4 different kitties dressed up. So there's a witch, a pumpkin, a ghost, and a devil. And I got chosen to do the ghost kitty. So this is my kitty in a ghost costume. Hopefully it's focusing for you guys. I made this out of Elise Beluto 5.5mm hook. These are 30mm eyes that I painted. There's a slight imperfection in that one, so I kept these, and then I don't know that anybody besides me will probably notice it as far as a customer goes. Has these cute little, it's hard to see in black, but cute little sets of bobble feet. Like there's a set there and then a set here, so like it's sitting, and then its little ears poke out the top like it's sticking out of the costume, and its tail is sticking out of the back of the costume. It's got this cute little ruffle that you surface crochet on later. There isn't any sewing, but there are a couple little techniques in this pattern that if you're not used to connecting pieces that are far apart, or doing a really neat bobble for this, a neat stitch for this, and then surface crocheting, and then there's a unique way to attach this tail, which is stuffed but not sewn closed, but actually attached while it's open in 2 different rounds. So I didn't have any trouble with it, but if you are a super beginner, and you haven't done those types of things before, just caution as far as, thinking that it's going to be super easy for you, but it is no sew. So I would recommend it for an advanced beginner to an intermediate crocheter that has done some crocheting pieces together with a chain, surface crocheting, sewing a tail on in 2 rounds, that kind of thing. So super adorable pattern. out now on Etsy. I'll have all of the links to all of the patterns down below in the description for you guys that I talk about today. But this is the Ghost Kitty. You get all 4 when you buy the pattern. She has amazing pictures in her patterns and just lots of detail, walks you through them. She's obviously not going to teach you how to crochet and how to do the foundational things you'll need to know to just do this pattern, but it's very clear, lots of pictures. I really love her patterns there. Some of the first ones that I did as well when I got started, like her cow was one of the first cows I ever made that I actually had to sew some things on, and I learned so much from her. So I appreciate her letting me test this. Again, Ghost Kitty from Moms to Chetty. I'm going to put a $24 price tag on this. He's actually quite big. I don't know how else to show him to you, but he is quite big. He's bigger than I thought he would be from the pictures because I've never made the plain kitties. She also has a plain just set of cats that sit. I actually own the pattern, but I haven't made it yet. So hopefully I'll get to that. But then this is the version of the same exact pattern, but with the costumes. So $24, Ghost Kitty from Moms to Chetty. Pattern is out now. So I did try one new pattern this week out of my collection. I'm still trying to work through at least 1 or 2 patterns a week. I actually have done really well and not added any patterns to my collection for a few weeks. I mean, I will confess usually I'm adding a pattern or 2 a week. I feel like I'm watching releases come out and I'm actually buying more patterns every week, more than I'm making. But I actually haven't bought any for a while. So I'm really proud of myself for that. But a couple weeks ago, I showed you guys a cat from Snuggle Beans Crochet, the splooting series, Cookie the cat, and I absolutely fell in love with this style that she has out. And I had bought the cat and the deer at the same time. So I had made the cat first. Obviously, you guys saw that. It was a cute, adorable, orange, mystical yarn cat. And I had then bought the deer. And deer are big around here. Deer and ducks and cows and chickens, farm animals are big around here. We live out in farm country. And I wanted to make, every time I've made a deer, I have sold the deer. So I wanted to make her Dory the deer. Neat series. I'm going to show you Dory. So this is made with Premier Basics chenille, which is somewhere in between Elise and blanket yarn, or Burnett blanket yarn, in my opinion. I use sometimes a 6, sometimes a 6.5 with Premier. Depends on if I've got thinner yarn. So every once in a while you get a skein of Premier Basics chenille that's just kind of flatter. And then every once in a while you get a skein that is like super round and plushy. So if it's super round and plushy, I go up to a 6.5, which is the same I used for Burnett. If it's the flatter, and then the most of the projects in the flat, I sometimes go down to a 6. This one was pretty thick. This rust color was, so I used a 6.5 with this. Plus I thought I'm going to get some more size, for, out of a 6.5, it's going to be a little bit bigger for the time that I spent doing it. And hopefully that means I could get a little bit more money for it. There are a few options in this pattern. There is a shorter body and a longer body. And I will confess that I did somewhere in between, I believe. I did the extra rounds here, but there's like an extra round in here and an extra round up here, I believe, in the longer body. And I did the extra round here, but when I got up to here, I was playing yarn chicken. And I had another skein of this color, but it was not as thick. And I just was being lazy and didn't want to get out of my chair, let's be honest. And so I did the one row short so that I would have enough. I had enough to do that row, but I did not have enough to sew it onto the head like I like to, because you do have to sew the head to the body, and that's the only, well, you have to sew the ears on as well in this pattern. But anyway, so I did somewhere in between. I did the longer body here, but then I did not do the extra row here. If that makes sense. If you actually own the pattern, hopefully that makes sense to you. These are 30mm eyes. that I painted. And this is a whopping huge safety eye, or safety nose. I bought a bunch of these in a pack, a variety of sizes from fairly small up to this is the largest one in there. And there's like bags of 4 different sizes off of Amazon one time. And I have a ton of these. And I thought, you know what, instead of embroidering that nose, I'm putting safety eyes on it anyway. Let's do a safety nose. So you do make the ears in 2 pieces. You make the middle, make the back, and then you crochet them together to make a piece. You do the same with this tail. That's a white-tailed deer, obviously, because he's got a little white tail. So you make the white, the outer, and then you crochet them together. You actually crochet the tail, though, into the round. You crochet the legs and the arms into the round. And then you sew the ears on the head, and you actually sew the heads to the bodies in this series. So you just... This is flat across, and you just sew it to one of the rows. If you can see, kind of like it's just attached by a row. But because it's that way, it can kind of sploot this way and sit, or it can sploot this way and sit this way, which is just, it's just neat. The way, because of the way the head is attached, you've got these options, you know. I love it this way, but I also like it this way. It's just cute. I mean, when you just do this, it looks like it's loose, but it's really not loose. It's very, very well attached. It's just, it's got options to go this way or to look up and out and go this way. Adorable. Shannon's patterns, Snuggle Beans Crochet, is, they're very detailed. Not hard. There is a back post single crochet stitch that's in these legs and arms of this series that is, in my opinion, a little bit harder than finding a third back loop. So like when you do a half double crochet and you work in the third back loop, which you do in all of my fancy pants to get the flat bottom feet, this you still do a single crochet, but you work around the post of the single crochet. So instead of actually working like, you know, when you do a half double crochet and you work on the third loop, you're working kind of in the back loop. And in this case, you work around the post of the single crochet. She explains it in the pattern, but this was black, which is hard to see anyway. And then I was trying to find, and I found every single one of them, but as I'm going along, I'm like, oh, am I missing one? But I did find them all, and it didn't have any problem with that. It just slows me down just a little bit. But it is neat that it makes this super flat bottom, and then you're decreasing up and making these short little legs and arms. And you do that again on the arms. So just another just unique technique that's in there to just create the look that she was going for. And then I did a little bit of embroidery here to kind of give it spots like a fawn would have, which you could come back and put a few, and I may like put a few little spots on its back too, but I definitely wanted to add some up here so people would know it was a deer, not a dog or something else. If you saw another one of my videos, somebody bought my snuggle deer from Mom Stitchetti, has a pattern that's similar to this, but does not sploot like both directions. It just lays this way, and someone bought it, and she knew it was a deer, but she was going to tell her grandson it was a dog because he had a dog that was that color. Anyway, so adorable. Dory the Deer by Snuggle Beans Crochet. Premier Basics Chenille. I'm going to put $38 on this, just like I'm going to put on the cat that I did out of Mystical. And they're pretty much the same size. So cute. I love it. I love it. I love it. I would just, I thought I went back and bought Pax the puppy, because I would like to do her puppy too, but I gotta take my time with these because these are bigger and I like to do them in the bigger yarns and there are pieces. I need to spread them out over a few days because it is harder on my wrist. I'm slowly getting through all of my Burnett and kind of weaning it out. I primarily use Elise Voluto now. There's a train. The Elise Voluto just and a 5.5mm hook is just so much easier on my wrists and my hands, and I can crochet for hours and not really cause pain. And I have actually stopped being woke up from the tingling in my fingers now that I'm not using Burnett on a pretty much daily basis, which is amazing. I'm still crocheting just as much. So, okay, next up, let's talk about really quick. I was in my tester calls this week for Fancy Pants, and Nancy was in there and doing my bear pattern, which I'll show you a little bit later. And she's like, I got these new sinker eyes, but they're just not sinking, and they came off of Amazon. And I'm like, you really shouldn't be able to see the edge of your sinker eye when you sink it all the way, which I think she knew that. It was just, that's why she was disappointed in it. So like, this is a sinker eye, and you do not see the flat side of it. The sinker eye actually has a ridge here, and the actual cap should go all the way down, all the way to the edge of that. Should go all the way down and collapse around this edge here. And when it does that, the only thing you will see is the very top edge, very flat, semi-rounded part of the eye. Like here on this cat, you do not see anything but the flat front. You do not see the side at all. So if you have a sinker eye and you're still seeing a little bit of that edge, you're not getting it clamped all the way. She's like, well, I'm using the tool that you gave Robin, which was the Craft Easy Tools pliers, which I still have them. This is actually my third pair. I've broke a few and they've replaced them. But I've learned my lesson that they really aren't meant for super thick yarns and really big eyes. The plastic just breaks. I broke them like right in here several times. So I use this more for a smaller sinker, or I have some hardback safety eyes that have like the discs on the back are not as soft and they're harder, and so I use that for those. But I now use the Crochet Mojo tool, which is a clamp. And so you take this lever here and that releases the clamp if you hold it in. And then you put your base of your eye down in here like this. Like, so when it's in the material, you would have that down in there. And the crochet piece would be here. You put your back on, and then you just clamp this down, and there is a drilled hole in here. You just clamp this down until you get where the back of that safety eye is going through that drilled hole, and you right about in there, it will clamp that plastic around it, and then you'll hear it snap usually, and then you can pull this trigger and release it out, and it should be attached. So that's what I use now. I'll link that down also below. You can buy her actual safety tool made already on Etsy. I think it's $16 or $16.95. She also has a free tutorial on her YouTube. If you know somebody who has a drill, she has a free tutorial that shows you how to make this hole here in a clamp that you just buy from Walmart or Harbor Freight or somewhere. And yeah, so it's free to make one yourself. I think she said something like the clamps are $5, $6 something when you buy them at the store by themselves. But she will drill it for you, put her sticker on it, and ship it to you through Etsy. Another thing me and April were talking about is you clamp here, and this gets put, this is in your hand. And every once in a while with these really big eyes and really thick yarn, you got to use quite a bit of trigger pressure to pull the eye down, and it will just kind of push on this pad in your hand, and it might make your hand kind of sore until you get used to using the tool, or if you use it a lot in one day. So just FYI, but pretty much that tool is what made me go back to doing sinker eyes on pretty much everything I make except for the super small cheap Market Makes, because I love the look of the sinker eyes so much, and I was having such a hard time though getting them in and having to get up every time. I needed to get to a table and use a press thing, and it was a whole thing, and now I just grab that, sit in my chair, and it's so nice. So I'll have that linked below, but I told Nancy, I'm like, I need to update my YouTube crew to tell them that I'm no longer using the Craft Easy tools for big safety eyes, but I am using them for smaller ones. And then for sinker eyes, I'm using that clamp from Crochet Mojo, which is a small business that you can support and you can follow on Instagram as well. I believe Darby is her name. Okay, small little market makes that I fit in this week. I was trying to burn through some of my scraps. I have this little table that sits over here that has a little bin in the bottom, and when I have not enough left to really put it into my yarn wall, I throw it down in there, and I was accumulating quite a bit, and I still have quite a bit. Elise Veluto scraps I had pulled working on stuff last night. But anyway, I made 2 stingrays this week. These are just my $5 bin stingrays. This one is Premier Basics tie-dye, and this one's Elise Veluto, and I sell these for $5. This is a free pattern from Chez du Coton on Instagram. Those are $5 a piece. And then I made 3 scrappy snakes. So this pattern is Saucy Puffin Crafts, the itty bitty snake. And I just used scraps, and for the most part, I let the scrap run out. A few times I went ahead and cut it because I was afraid I was going to run out like right before the tip. But I let the scrap run out and changed colors randomly. I love this pattern from Saucy Puffin Crafts. I don't make as many rows as she does, just as an FYI. I think I make, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 18, 20, maybe I make just as many, but there's probably 35 to 40 rows total from front to back on these. So I made 3 little scrappy snakes last night. I didn't really want to start a big project last night, but I wanted to work through some of these scraps, and so I cleaned out quite a few. And you don't stuff these besides the head, so you get done with the head part. I put the safety eyes in, and then you can pretty much just crochet away, and then where the color changes are, you just stuff your tails in there. Even if it's a solid snake, I don't stuff it, but and I sell these for $10. So I just thought, I think I only had 2 snakes left, and they weren't the same even. One of them was brunette, like a snake I just made out of a scrap one time that's not even this pattern. So I wanted to make a few more, and I sell these for $10 a piece. So just trying to keep up with a few little market makes as I go. And then another little market make that I made this week and fit into my schedule on a road trip was a Max the Market Kitty from April from the Cozy Buckeye. This is her cat pattern. It's been released for a while now, and this is 20mm safety eyes. This is Premier Basics multi. It's not the tie-dye, but it's called multi, and it's more of a variegated that just changes over time. And I used Elise Veluto in kind of a sandy cream color to do the face. You do sew the tail on. You could sew the tail closed and crochet it into the round, but I don't think it's going to stick up quite like it does if you sew it on, which I love because it just kind of comes up right between the ears. I sell these for $16 at Market, and I think I only have 1 or 2 in my inventory, so I just thought it'd be nice to have some more. I also make a smaller version that are cheaper, but these are $16. So this is Max the Market Kitty from the Cozy Buckeye. Okay. Outside of that, the rest of this week was all dedicated to Fancy Pants. If you are new here, Fancy Pants is a series of animals that I am working on that you make the head all the same, and then you go to different versions of the pattern. You get a overall version, a dress version, and a solid version in the pattern, and you make the clothes into the pattern so you don't have to have a totally separate piece of clothing to make. There's also a bandana, a scarf, and a bow included in the pattern. Another add-on, if you are on my Instagram that I have collaborated on and tagged, is there's a flower that one of my testers came out with and put up as another free little addition that you could make. People have made and like just designed on their own like a little bag to put around it. There's a little pocket on the overall. You could always put 2 little pockets on the sides. You can take the bow and put it in the hair, or you can put it on like as a little bow tie, or I have put it on right above the tail before and had like a little tail bow. I have put it back on the straps where the overalls are. But over here, if you can see these top 2 bins are all the fancy pants I've made so far. And I believe that this week's release makes 12 different animals. There is a cow, a gator, and a pig. And then there is a horse, a donkey, and a unicorn. Then there is a lamb, a lion, and a chicken. And then there's a koala, a capybara, and a sloth. So actually this week's release makes 15. This week's release is a hippo, a bunny, and a bear. And if you have been following along, I have been naming them after family members or nicknames of family members as I went along, and that is no different this week. Nobody wants the hippo named after them, obviously. I don't know, like just kind of like the cow. The cow is named after my grandmother, who is no longer with us. So I'm like, at least I probably won't offend her if I name the cow after her. But nobody really wanted to be named after the hippo. So I took my son Henry. If you know, some people back in the day, a nickname for Henry was Hank. And so my hippo's name is Hank, not because my Henry is a tank at all. If you've ever seen him, he is a super slim, tall dude. But anyway, I just was trying to find something to go with it that was kind of still reminded me of family. And Henry already has a hermit crab named after him that Tara did, his sister. So, okay, let's just show them to you. This is Hank the hippo, which maybe it's Hanketta. I don't know because she's got a bow in her hair, but there's safety eyes that I painted. This is the solid version. This is the little surface crochet tail that you do after. The only thing that you sew on this is the heads to the bodies in the fancy pants. That's the only thing that you sew on. Sometimes there is surface crocheting after, and sometimes there's face shaping, and there's usually some kind of embroidery on the face for some of the animals. In this case there wasn't, because the little nostrils are there. Okay, and then so this is Hank the hippo. This is Barb the bunny. This is the dress version. There's also a note that you can tack these ears if you would like and make them stand up. You could tack them back with the tails and make them stand up this way. You can just let them flop like they are on this one. This one doesn't have the tail just because it has the dress, but there is a poofy tail, which you make with just some chains out, which if you just do it with fur yarn, you could just do it a few times and it'll make it really puffy. On the solid or the overall version, that would be extremely adorable, but on the dress, I was like, there's just so much going on usually on the dress that a lot of times I leave the tails off. So this is Barb the bunny. Barb was my mother-in-law who's passed away. And this is the bear. This is Tim Bear. Tim Bear? I just couldn't help myself. Also eyes that I painted. But Tim is my dad. I have a dad and a stepdad, both of which I absolutely adore and love. But Tim is my dad, my biological dad. Super adorable. I love his snout and the way his ears come out. This is the overall version, of course, with the little pocket, and then he's got this stubby, cute little tail that if you do, like, don't miss the tails on these, which I'll get to that in the tips. But the bear and the bunny also come, so like my versions have the flat bottom arms. There is an option in these patterns to make a rounded arm if you prefer. So these two patterns, which is not hard to figure out how to do a rounded arm versus a flat bottom arm, but I did include it in the pattern in case you have a preference and you maybe weren't sure how to do it. My preliminary ones all have flat bottom arms, but the round bottom arms are just, you know, rounded and don't have the flat bottoms, which one of my testers, Tracy from Travel Crochet, was like, I think he just needs round arms instead of flat ones, and I'm like, it's super easy to do, so I just added it to the pattern as an option. Like the sloth has all round arms, but he also has longer arms, so these are shorter than the sloth. But anyway, so Tim, Barb, and Hank. So you get solid, a dress, and overalls in all of them. This is released now, and these are 25% off for until Tuesday. So today, Monday, and Tuesday, for 3 days, you get 25% off the new releases only. But there's also a store discount. The more you buy, the more you save. If you buy 3, you get 20% off. So I think if you buy something that's not in the new collection and add it to the cart with these, I think you get 20% off of those too. So, okay, something else I came out with this week, and then we'll talk about some fancy pants tips. If you guys are making the fancy pants, stick around for that, and I will just give you a few little tips that kind of might help you have a result of mine. Just things that I've learned along the way that aren't really things that you normally put into a pattern. It's just things that I kind of know. But I definitely want to tell you guys in case it's not something that you know or you are new. Okay, so the mods that I'm coming out with today, they will be out on Instagram later today. It's just a free mod, is for a shirt or like a tank top, which is this one. This is Hank the Hippo in a shirt. Looks like a little muscle guy, like he's ready to go to the gym. This particular one, I have the eyes back one more row than this one. So I mean, like, just play around with it. You know, you'll figure out where you like them better. For some reason, I put these back up. And the pattern actually says that depending on the size and the type of eye that you use, you know, you may want to put it in this row or you may want to put it back in this row. So this is back a row farther than this one, just as an FYI. Gives it a little bit of a different look. And then this, so a shirt, tank top option, and then a shirt and pants option. And so basically the mod just tells you if you want to do a shirt and pants, you follow this part of the pattern that you already own, and then you would go to this pattern for the top part and finish that. And this same goes for this one. It tells you which legs to do, like start with these, you know, these legs, and then work this part for the body. So it does not tell you how to do the fancy pants at all. It just tells you that, and then you replace a round with a different round. So to do this middle part where you transition from the body to the shirt or the pants to the shirt. This is just some freehand embroidery I did of a little heart. Get creative, just trying to put something on his shirt. It's 3 this way, 3 this way. It just kind of makes a little heart shape. Okay, so shirt and pants mods will be out later. So if you already own some of the fancy pants patterns or are interested in modding them to not just have overalls and not just have a dress, now you have a dress, overalls, a tank top, and shirt and pants. All of these. All of them. So, okay. So now on to the tips. So one of the pattern, if you are like me sometimes and you just kind of skim a pattern and assume that you just do a pattern normal, like there's not any special sew on instructions, down in the assembly instructions where it talks about putting the head on the body, for all of them, so like the bunny and the chicken are the only 2 right now that you make from the bottom going up. The other ones you make from the front going back. But on all of the heads, when you attach them, you leave the body open and you sew the top row to the head as a round until you get to right up into the very front part, between the arms. And in between the arms, I go down a row on the body. So this is actually, that's what makes it look like there's less rounds here. I go down a row on the body, grab that row, the second row down, and attach, and I go up and pull, and it pulls the head kind of slightly down. If you see here, like his head is attached down a row of the body and it pulls his head kind of down. Okay. If you do not do that, his head will sit way up like this. So when he's facing forward, a lot of times their eyes are more facing up and out instead of at you. So when you attach heads to the bodies, it's in the instructions, but it's really easy to miss because it just says sew the head to the body in the back row. But then like the second sentence says, in the front of the body, I like to go down a row on the body to attach to pull the head down. Okay, so just remember that. It's a little tip, especially on the hippo. Okay, so this particular hippo, I went down a row on the body, and then this one I went down a row, but I went even farther up on the nose. See how I don't know if you can see or not. I went farther up on the head to grab rounds that are even farther out on his snout to really pull his snout down a little more. Not much, just a row, but I mean it's the difference between this one's snout. See how that snout is facing down more? And this snout is more like nostrils are in front of his eyes. But I also put the eyes back farther, so they're not covering the eyes. But like on this one, if I had done that, the nostrils would have covered the eyes. So I really pulled the head down on this one. So it's very important. The little details, the sewing on part, can really make or break the way that your finished plushie looks. I have sewn on a head before and been like, oh, nope, like, you know, and just improvised and pulled things down. It's just something that I have started to do as I go along. So you might see me make something, be like, why doesn't mine look like hers? Well, I might have done just a little tweak, you know, that you guys didn't do because I'm just something I've learned along the way. So that first off is attaching the head to the body. Don't miss that. And then if there is a tail, most of the tails, besides the gator, if there is a tail for the animal, it is in the assembly instructions right below sewing the head to the body. Okay, because it's the same for pretty much every animal and it's optional, really. Like you don't have to add it if you don't want to, but it is in the assembly instructions. So don't miss the tails, okay? The other thing is the face shaping in the pattern. So there is a face shaping video, but it is an example of one particular animal, okay? And it's showing you the rounds and the rows that you used for that animal. Read your instructions. The instructions for actually doing the face shaping, besides the capybara, is the same for all of them. As far as you go underneath, like where you would not in a row that's between here and here because you aren't going to see it. You tie a knot with your finishing tail. You use your finishing tail, like you leave a long finishing tail, and then you weave it underneath, and then I tie it around a string or a couple stitches in the middle, and I tie a knot with it around it to secure it, okay? So that when I pull, I'm not pulling my closing from the back. I'm just pulling from where the knot is, okay? And then I come up, and on this particular pattern, you can't see it because it's just so well hidden, but you come up in front of his eye, and then you go over, back down in front of the exact same spot in front of the other eye, and you go down, and I go down a stitch right next to where I tied the knot, okay? And go out. And then I pull this string, that's what's going to pull your face in, right? I pull it down through that hole, and then I tie a knot really tight on the bottom to keep that face shape. If you go back through the same hole and tie a knot, it's going to pull up, it could pull up more into the body. So I like to go the stitch over so that it's really around those stitches underneath. And you're not going to see this because it's going to be enclosed between the head and the body when you sew that. It's specifically designed to be in a round that's going to be hidden underneath here. So you do it right below the head so that it's ends up underneath here when you're done. Okay. Another thing that I do especially on the ears, is there's two tails usually left from your ears. The beginning tail and then your fastening off tail. I like to weave them like when I am closing up, doing the round that I'm crocheting them into. I think these are crocheted into a decrease. So I would take the first tail, whichever one's closest to the side, the first stitch, and go ahead and put it inside of the body, pull up my first decrease loop, and then I go into the body for the second decrease loop, take my second tail and put it inside, and then finish my decrease. That takes my tails, instead of my tails going into the same exact stitch, they're going into two different stitches. So that when I tie those tails together inside, it actually pulls the stitches together and it like through the body, not just on the ear. If you pull them through the same way and you tie them a knot, they're just gonna be tied a knot at the bottom of an ear. If you pull them across two stitches, there's going to be a stitch between then you're going to be tying it around, and it's going to help pull your ear down, secure it into the body, and make it, sometimes it helps make it stand up. April noted this on the bear pattern. She left, because you can do it different ways, right? You have your magic ring tail. She left it outside, I believe, and then she used it to sew it up so it would stand up. She left it outside and then used it after she finished the head to like sew the ear down so it would stand up and not flop. But I worked it inside at a different stitch, and then when I tied them together, it pulled it tight and it made the ear stand up instead of lay down. Okay, it's so hard to put that into a pattern, and it's something that I just do now because I'm so used to it that I wanted to kind of give you guys a little bit of instruction on that. The other thing is stuffing. You cannot express enough how much difference the stuffing of your animal makes, okay? If you would just stuff this guy forward, you're not going to get this round, voluptuous shape of a snout of a hippo. It's specifically designed to be wider than his head because hippo, a lot of times their snouts are bigger than their head part. And so it's designed that way. So you need to stuff it that way. If you want it to be a shape, stuff out and then inside of the shape that you're trying to make, okay? So stuff outward, upward, all the directions, and then stuff inside of that. Once you've shaped out, push enough stuffing in the middle of that to keep that shape outward that you've created. Like on the bunny specifically, there's a row of increases right along here. That's her cheeks. And if you see from the top, you can kind of see how they stick out from her eyes. Down in here, I specifically stuff a lot down into those increases when I'm stuffing so that I get that puffy cheek look on these and on the chickens. On the capybara, for instance, we want his nose to be long this way. So don't stuff out on his nose, stuff up more to make this narrow snout thing that you have going on. On your bear, stuff out, you're making kind of a round muzzle circle, but don't stuff a lot, maybe right here where this slip stitch round is that kind of creates the shape here. Don't stuff a ton there, but then once you get past that, stuff a lot past that so that you get this bulge outside of that. Does that make sense? Hopefully I'm explaining that well. But anyway, so the point is, do not underestimate how you're sewing your head on, how you're tying your ears in, how you're doing your face shaping, and how you are stuffing your animal. The better that you get at this, the better your products are going to turn out at the end. Okay, and it's just so hard to put that into a pattern. So that's just my tips for today. Okay, next on my list of things to cover today is my fun little package from Nerdy Girl Crochets. So I bought some eyes from Nerdy Girl Crochets. I saw her video where she was painting them, and I love to buy other people's eyes because I just love to see their techniques and things, which I know I've talked about this before. But anyway, I tagged her, and she, you know, in my post where I used her eyes, and she's like, oh, I love them, da 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 da, you know, and then we got to talking. Anyway, we were like, let's just trade some mystery eyes. I love to make mystery eyes, which if you've seen her last video, which I'll link her down below, maybe it's 2 videos ago now, she opens my eyes on camera. So I wanted to do the same for her. So I have not opened this. I have been waiting like 5 days. I got this, I think, on Tuesday, and Tuesday, Wednesday, and I have been waiting to open it so that I can open it with you guys. And she was so, like, both of us felt a little bit of pressure not knowing, but really in the end, like, I know what size they're going to be, and I can always find something to use them for. And I just love all techniques of eyes. I like plain ones that are solid and neon or glow in the dark. I love glitter ones. I love color shifting ones. I like them all. And it's just fun. So I'm going to open this up and let's see what Britt made me. Okay. Do a little note. I really hope you like them. I'm sure I will. Okay, I haven't seen them yet. I haven't flipped them over, but she packs them in this bubble wrap. And she puts the backs on them before she bubble wraps them so that the backs are kind of like with each pair, but they're not snapped on. Does that make sense? So I'm going to flip it over and kind of get the backs to come off so that the backs aren't on them. Okay, I still haven't looked. Mine, I sent her, were on individual cards, so she got to pull them out one at a time, but these are all on the same card. I asked for 3 20 millimeters and a pair of 30s, I believe. I think I did 30s. Yes. So 3 20s and a 30. Are we ready? I haven't even seen them, guys. Are they beautiful? I'm sure they are. I'm sure they are amazing. Okay. Oh my gosh, I love them. That bottom one is like the coolest shift from blue to purple. And the middle one is kind of just like purple to purples. The third one up is like greens and golds and a little blue. Oh my gosh. And the top one is just a shimmery, opaly blue. It is amazing. Let me see if I can get it to shift like it. Like it really does. You probably won't be able to see it near like I can. Those are amazing. I mean, like, I will not have any problem at all finding something to use these for. Oh my gosh, I love them. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, Britt. They are beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love them. I love them. Okay. I think that's all I have for you guys today. I am going on a little trip this week, and I had said after the retreat in the spring that if I did one in the fall, that I was just going to kind of do a very chill getaway retreat. And you may, if you follow me a lot, have seen a post here and there back several months ago about I had a couple openings for this little getaway. I won't really call it a retreat. It's just kind of a little getaway with some friends. There are some new people coming that I have not met in person, just a few. And then there are mostly people that have come to other retreats that I've just made friends with. Tara, my daughter, is going. April is coming. Heather from Freckle Brunette Creations. Anyway, this was a cheaper deal where we are all splitting the meals and splitting supply costs. So everyone had a supply list and or a meal to do. And I'm not doing set activities and I'm not doing giveaways. So we're just a little more chill, just coming together and just hanging out and relaxing and crocheting together. And I'm so excited. It's like bad timing, good timing. You know, I talked last week about how we had a rough week. So good timing in the way like I could really use this chance to get away, but also bad timing in the way like I'm a little nervous to get away. So a little in between there. So I'm just praying that I get a chance to really decompress and reset and just not worry for a while, just to be so preoccupied with creating and crocheting and fellowshipping with fellow creators, and just such a good time that I can just reset myself and my brain and just have a great time. My family has assured me that they want me to go. I think they're looking forward to getting rid of me for a while. Maybe not necessarily, but they definitely understand that I could use a little bit of a break. So they have been super supportive and just like, go do your thing, Mom. So I am excited about that. So that is this week. And we are still doing a plushie exchange just because they're so fun. And you get to go home with a little memento from the trip. And we still did a shirt just because there's so much less people this time. There's only 11 of us. But we're still doing a shirt because we all just love to have the shirts to wear. And someone was talking about maybe someday making a t-shirt quilt or something out of all of her shirts, and it being kind of fun to do that with her crochet shirts. So we still made a shirt that we all just bought. I didn't, just let them buy it straight from the place that I designed them and set them up at, and then splitting the meals. And so not having to make every meal and not having to do activities and not having to take all the stuff for that is just, I'm just so excited. So this week, I don't plan to vlog a lot of it. I don't plan to, I'll talk about it and I'll probably have little snippets, but this is not about promo. This is not about selling anybody anything. This is not about creating content for people who donated prizes. This is just about getting together with some friends. So I may have some snippets, but it won't be next Sunday. It'll be 2 weeks. Where I'll get to show you everything that I made on the trip, because we don't come home until Sunday. So I do have, if I can get it out in time, I do have a video on how I make my safety eyes started, or I have it, and I just need to edit it and put it all together. And that's my plan for next Sunday. Is you won't have a normal video from me, but you will have a video on how to make how I make my safety eyes, which, by the way, there are some in stock right now in my Etsy. I sold out of all the 20 millimeters, but then I made some this week. I just have really been enjoying like a different type of craft too, but it's still being related to crochet. And so I made more. So if you are looking for some of my safety eyes, they are in my shop on Etsy. But I'll also have Nerdy Girl Crochet's shop linked below. She's got her own website so that you can go to her site and check out her eyes. She's got some really cool, amazing eyes that she has done. So, okay, I think that is it, guys, for this week. Thank you for sticking with me, and sorry that I did not have a market to show you, but hopefully you still enjoyed seeing everything I made this week, hearing my tips, my new tools, and seeing these eyes and all of that fun stuff this week. I appreciate you guys. Have a great week. We will talk to you again next week. Happy crocheting. Bye.